Call this committee of the whole to order. The only thing on there is the employee personnel manual. Open for discussion as to what we have for changes and stuff.
We could do it one or two ways. There was the bulleted highlights. Everybody should have received all of these highlights as well as a review, a revised manual as well as the old one is what I sent to everybody. I guess we're an open panel. What I will say is that myself, Carl, Jane, and Chris, who's not here, this took 5 sessions, and then we went through it. We used notes that were in the manual from prior sessions. Some of it was Lynn, some of it was Chief Sullivan, prior Chief Sullivan. And then I also took notes from City of Sheboygan, City of Grafton. And then Diane must have solicited from Cottingham and Butler for some issues in the book where she wanted to solicit an HR attorney. So what we did is we went through page by page. I'm gonna say 95% of what we did was take out language. Most of it was language cleanup. It wasn't anything major. The major ones that we basically highlighted were on the bullet points. But however, these are all proposals, and this is really your floor. So if you have a question on something, I'd like you to ask us, and then I have notes in the book. If you could tell me a page number. A lot of it we went back. Bob has also reviewed it, so we would speak to anything in this book. I don't think we're trying to run anything by you. Just the biggest thing is we needed to clean up. So
Did the employees have some input also, or give you any suggestions?
it was limited. We put it through Lisa, Libby, and Nathan.
Okay.
Like I said, I have an open door on every policy. So we've had discussions in the last month with some of the regards. Some of the issues with full-time employment or part-time employment. I actually talked with Allie and Pat at the last library board meeting because it affected more of the library employees than it did anybody else. So essentially I wanted to get Allie's feeling on that. There is some, I mean, there's gonna be some upset people here, but that's with everything. That's a tough decision you gotta make. But moving forward, it didn't seem to make sense that we were offering benefits, sick time, holiday pay to people that were working 20 hours a week. It doesn't happen in the real world. So moving forward, if we had to make a decision, I think we had to do it for all playing fields. And unfortunately, it affected more of the library people than anybody else. So Allie and I discussed it. She's in a position where she can pay them out for their benefits. And then moving forward, if it's approved by the village board, we stamp it and say, at this point moving forward, you are compensated for your hours you work. You don't accrue holiday pay, you don't accrue sick pay. You are allowed to have Wisconsin retirement per the village mandates, and then you also, on that, you get the life insurance policy that's mandated by the Wisconsin retirement system also. So moving forward, we have to clarify that we have 4 divisions of employment basically for record keeping, but you are only guaranteed full benefits if you are a full-time employee. And those are clearly laid out then in the benefits section of this revised manual. So.
My question is directed probably at Allie and probably Pat as library board, because I'm no longer on that. There's a number 3 here on page 6. Item B, review and evaluate all applications for library, narrowing the field of candidates to 3.
That's on my notes too.
Because I've been through 2 hiring processes, and there may not be 3, or isn't that up to the board's discretion? Do we have to be real specific that we narrow it down to 3?
Yeah, I was gonna comment on that too.
Are you on the revised now, or
Yep.
the?
I hope so.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the problem, and that brings me to another question, but I guess I just want to be sure that we as a village are not mandating that they have to narrow it down. Like, let's say they've got 4 great candidates. I would rather not see that in a policy, and I don't know, Allie, what input you had on this.
I mean, it makes sense. I know in the last hiring period there were 10 applicants, and I think they narrowed it down to 4, I think.
And I
don't know that that is something that needs to be in the personnel manual, since it's the library board technically that makes those decisions.
Chapter,
Because of the statute
Yeah.
is directing library boards to handle that. Same with letter C under there. It would be the library director who does the performance evaluation of the employees. The board does the library director.
yeah, and then the
But-
It would
employees
be the
are,
library board that does.
The library director, but the director does
What
the
page are you on, Jill?
employees.
6.
And then if there's
3.
issues, then the director
In
would
the
come to us.
revised is page 3. or 2.
Then I'm obviously looking at the wrong one, and that's, okay, that's where I ran into some problems
Page
too.
6, number 3, right? Is that what you're
Page
on?
Library
6.
board, page, it's in the new revised, it's page 3.
Okay, then I'm,
Oh, I have page 6.
Okay.
number 3. I'm
but I
sorry.
guess,
I'm-
I just know that there's some,
Page 6, number 3.
I just don't wanna cross over into an area that we as a village don't wanna cross over into, because the library board, it's at their discretion. Especially specifying that they have to bring it down to 3 candidates. We may have had 4 great candidates we wanted to bring back in. I would have hated to have somebody tell us we could only bring 3. You're the one that got selected for it, but
Yeah, I
you know what I
know.
mean? It just, that was that board, and that, no different than a village board deciding if we wanna bring candidates back in, you know.
And I think for consistency, just for consistency too, I think later in the manual, it talks about department heads doing their employees. I think it's worded subordinate employees that
So you
do
wanna
the
strike-
evaluations.
Do you wanna strike that last part?
Well,
Number C?
definitely
C?
letter C,
And I don't think B needs to
I
be
mean,
amended.
B.
B and C?
B and C.
No, I mean, strike the last part of B. Cause you will, the board will
Oh,
review.
yeah.
Right,
I don't think we don't need to list a number, we can just say narrowing the field of candidates. They don't have to put a number in there.
right.
Yeah, and then just strike C altogether.
Okay.
And
So we
where-
could realistically be looking at 10.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's up to the library board's discretion. Then the other question I had, and why I probably printed off the wrong one, is the previous one had on the first page, like, all the different revision dates.
Correct.
This one doesn't, so if I'm looking at that, well, how do I know I have a current or an old one? If I'm an employee, let's say I'm an employee and I come along and somebody hands me a personnel manual, 2 years down the road, it's revised, I may not have gotten the new one for whatever reason, or I'm not sure which is the new one. Can we keep the revision date on here somewhere?
But there's no guarantee.
Well, the intention, the why we took it out is because if you're doing this properly, every January, you're gonna approve and any changes to a new, every January, you should approve the personnel manual. So the way it's actually written, Julie, is there's per diem rates in there for 2019. So as they're updated, I will update this. If there's changes, updated.
Okay,
So you'll only actually be outdated in the year that you're servicing. So every January, I'm proposing that this book would come in front of the village board for reapproval
okay. Can
with
we put,
changes from the year prior.
then can we put then 2019 somewhere?
I'm waiting for approval.
Oh, But I mean, like, to put the wording.
It'll be on the cover page.
2009, okay, I
Yep.
just want to make sure, because I just know that, I've worked at employers before, and then they
Sure.
hand you something new, and you're not sure if you have the new or the old one, and, okay,
Upon this group approving this, these will be printed, currently printed with the changes that we discussed tonight, if it's approved, and it'll be dispersed to all employees currently. And then I'll have to have the conversations with Ally, how we're gonna rectify, if it's approved, the 3 that are affected in the library, and then also Christina, because those are with the big changes, those are the 4 employees that are fall into the permanent part-time position.
okay.
David, do you plan on having the employees sign something that says they have it and read it?
Yes, it's actually last page in the booklet here, is that page. And then this also goes back to what I proposed with their employee evaluations. So our first evaluation will be in June of employees. And then moving forward, we also had, to start this year, everybody signed a description of their job. So before June, I want to revise all of the employees' job descriptions. And then every year, we're going to move forward. If we see fit that we need improvements for every step. So they sign an agreement every year, and they get this every year that says they're signing it. So they're aware of what they have, the benefits are, and it's kind of a full meal package. It needs to be updated every year.
Is this something that will then eventually be available on the web for employees?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's all public knowledge.
okay,
There's nothing that we're hiding here.
okay.
So,
'Cause if you're
absolutely.
home and you want to
Yep,
reference
yep,
something and you don't have your
yep.
paper copy.
Yep.
right? I mean,
Yep. And our best tool, I'll be honest, guys, is that gentleman right there. So he's the nut that's cracking. And he's putting stuff out and web paging and everything. So and Jane will attest to that. Carl will attest to that too. So he's our best asset right now in the office. He's helping us a lot of online and record keeping. So thank you, Nathan. It's birthday day too. So.
happy birthday, Nathan.
What a way to celebrate a birthday, huh?
Where are the cookies?
We also
We did it for one
canned
time.
frosted.
Thanks.
Yeah.
They were good. I didn't get it either.
Any other questions or comments on the personnel manual?
On page 20, my page 20, I maybe printed these off wrong, I don't know. Under clothing allowance, we always gave the Public Works employees a $400 clothing allowance and a check on their payroll.
Yeah,
So now you've changed it that they have to buy the clothes, bring in the receipt.
this was their idea.
Okay,
What's happening is they're paying taxes on that. So
Yes.
effectively, it's just become a bonus and not so much something utilized for clothing. So, like I said, this was brought forward by them. They would prefer to be reimbursed and get their actual $400 versus it going on a paycheck and paying taxes on it and all that. And it also alleviates some concerns on my end that it just becomes essentially a bonus. So,
Yeah, I want to make sure they're buying work clothes.
there were several instances where employees have come forward and had some questions and some concerns. We raised the eyeglass allowance,
mhm.
so, and that was a question by the employees as well, so.
Let's clarify the numbering system. So when you guys printed, you must have got page 1, 2 for your table of contents, and so we're gonna be off by a little bit. 'Cause
I think
I'll get
so.
you all good corrected copies, okay?
Yeah, because I'm even looking at the PDF here, and that's not even numbered,
It's okay.
so.
All good. Because what I actually changed up front with all the page numbers on the front are current and correct, so. I'll get you all a good copy,
And then on page 8, my page 8,
okay?
there again, under the department heads, okay, under J.
Jay?
It says payroll reports shall be submitted to the village board. We used to do that, then we stopped. Because we wanted to save paper. So when the payroll, I actually had to copy off everyone's payroll sheet, their time sheet, and give it to the board. So they could see what every employee worked. So are we keeping that in there because we stopped doing that?
Yeah, we can scratch it.
Yeah, so that could be taken out,
Any discussion on that matter?
unless somebody still wants to, but
No, I have no desire to see it, but,
that's a,
and
that's
if
a
somebody
lot of
wanted to see it, that's something that
wasted
is public
time.
record, and
It all gets turned into
Yeah,
Libby.
I had to
Because
copy them,
essentially what
every
happens
single
is, the
payroll.
department heads, I sign off on theirs, they sign off on their employees.
Yeah,
So, and then Libby does all the record, they all go to record keepings, and then I send mine to Al and Libby currently.
mhm.
I just wanted to follow up to what David said about the library. The 3 of the 4 part-time people who have received benefits work in the library, so the library board is gonna have discussion too about how to handle going forward, you know, because those employees have quite a few hours of personal time or sick time or whatever, so so we have to figure out how to do that, you know, for them, because they're valuable employees. and
Absolutely.
we want to handle it correctly. So I just wanted to let you know that that's a concern of the library board.
I think David had some ideas at our last library board meeting
Yeah.
too, different ways to approach it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We did the financials on it, so, you know, according to this manual, if we were to pay them out, they would get paid at halftime, half their sick time. Even if we paid them to their full-time rate, Ally said that with the numbers that we generated, she'd be able to cover it with basically the little bit extra allocation that she had in her payroll. So she has some extra room in there. Worst case scenario, I mean, we also have that extra fund that's sitting there, so the library is not hurting for finances to pay these people out. It's just moving forward, we'd honor their vacation request, but it would have to be, let's start with a clean slate moving forward, then again, once this is stamped done, you're only compensated for the time that you work.
So then,
Go ahead.
I have an employee who turned in 2019 vacation requests back in October, because
Correct.
they're a planner. Would that be honored then, or would I?
You'd have to
say
honor her
no?
time off, however, we'd already have paid her out for that time.
Right,
So
okay, yeah,
moving forward, she would have been paid for her time off or sick
Right.
leave. So again, once this is paid out, then the employees, the only time that they're compensated for is the
Yeah.
hours they actually work.
yeah, yeah.
And then it's on to you and using your resources with your backup librarians and scheduling to just make sure the hours are covered.
Right,
So,
and we do that now anyway.
correct.
Any other questions or comments?
And again, I'll just reiterate, it's not meant to hurt these people, because they're valued employees, and she had some concerns that, hey, they may leave, and they might. That's a chance we take, but how I'll justify it is, they sat with a position, if you wanted more hours, there was library hours available. They could have went to full-time, so they had options, they could have done it. It might not have worked into their schedule, but so choose it. If you're electing to be a 20-hour-a-week employee, we have to look at what's best for the village here, and that's, we're paying them for what they're doing. So,
But we don't wanna lose good people.
exactly, yeah,
So-
there's a fine line we gotta weigh
You
there.
know, I
but
just wanna be sure we honor that.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, this then, obviously, we approve this, or make a recommendation to approve this yearly, then this will just come to the board
Correct.
and then obviously the
Correct.
point of whatever revisions.
If there are any notes, I'm gonna treat it like an ordinance codification. If there's any notes that come forward, it'll be put into the manual and recorded. If it's something that has to be addressed immediately, it'll go through the board immediately for an amending. If not, it's something that can be noted and then possibly put in front of you on an annual basis. Some things are hot topics, some are not. A lot of it falls on my discretion, which is fine. A lot of and then major changes that were in here, it was language. A lot of it was just language. So it was a good cleanup. And then we justified it and clarified it with Bob, with Cottingham and Butler, and then with other notes that I've had from other municipalities. So, and I don't want any surprises here. So some other things that I'll pull up here. We did put a policy in for closing a village hall, because we've had some weather-related events. So essentially, what happened in the last month here with having to close Village Hall, I was unfortunately on vacation that day. So Carl made the call, and I backed the call. It's better to have a safe employee than somebody get hurt trying to transport the work. So,
Carl had called me
Yep.
before.
yeah, but what we didn't have was a policy. So you essentially say, police and public works are essential employees because they need to report whether the weather's good or bad. Then there's office staff that are technically non-essential employees. We could operate without them, but we didn't have a policy that just delineated between them. Now we do. Because what was happening was Public Works said, well, village staff didn't have to report and we compensated them. I got compensated, but I had to report. So now the options are either you take sick time, comp time, vacation time, or if you don't have any of those, you can go without pay. But it's better than, you have to give them an offer or an option to come or not come to work for their own safety. So that's written in the manual, so. Flex time, so it refers to exempt and non-exempt. So we're able to bank, like myself, Jane, Chris, Carl, we're able to bank our hours, but there was no classification or clarification on how we're to use them. So we added caveats that said, you're not to use more than 40 hours at one given period. So if you have a ton of bank comp time, you could take a week of vacation. So you could take a 40-hour week of comp time to use it up. Comp time is meant to be a work-life balance. However, you can't use it, what we put in the manual is, if you take 40 hours, you can only do that once a month. You can only use 40 hours in any given month. you can only use 40 hours in any given one period of time, so you can't take consecutive weeks. So you can only take 40 in a week, you can only take 40 in a month, and you can only do that 3 months consecutively. So upon somebody, if we have a very tenured employee that has a bunch of comp or sick, or a comp time banked, if they're announcing that they're leaving, worst case is they'd have to use 3 months and take 1 week, so you couldn't basically work 4 months at the end of your tenure. You have to announce it 3 months in advance that you're gonna take it, and you can only take an extra week, one week per month for the last 3 months. That's all you can use in a year. So it's not gonna be to the advantage of the employee. It's, the way we discussed it in our meetings, is comp time is comp time. You should be using it, if you're working 5 extra, you should be balancing and taking a couple extra that month. There shouldn't be a major carryover of comp time. It's used to be, don't take advantage of it, because it's there to be a balance for you. Like, I'm gonna take an hour tomorrow, it's my dad's birthday, so I'm gonna leave an hour early tomorrow, go out to lunch with my dad, but I know I'm gonna have extra time tonight, and I had some on Tuesday, so 5 extra, 1 out. That's how it's supposed to be used, but we had to clarify how you use it, so that at the end of a tenure, if somebody is retiring or stepping aside or put their notice in, that they can't, all of a sudden, the village isn't on the hook for paying them for 5 to 6 months of not working. We don't wanna get ourselves into that situation. We did that at Wisconsin per diem rates. Those are based off of the Wisconsin City Managers Association. So if anybody was traveling for a convention, it would total to $51 per day. That includes breakfast, lunch, dinner, and $5 worth of tip. So according to statutes in the state, it's basically you can record $5 on a tip without having to prove it, because a lot of people will pay in cash. It's kind of one of those reporting things that you just gotta look the other way. It's not like it's hundreds of dollars. So, but that's $5 total for the day. That's what you're allowed without a receipt. Those do change annually. Usually it's within $1 or $2. It's ours were pretty outdated, I think, from the review. Carl, we had discussed some eyewear. There were some upgrades in expenditures for eyeglasses for Public Works, because it's eyeglasses, obviously that is a big ticket item nowadays. We adjusted the rates for the opt-out policy for insurance, because those were not correct, so we clarified those with what's currently being paid out for anybody who opts out of insurance coverage. Carl inserted a return to work policy, that was already something we had, it just wasn't in the personnel manual. And then Chris and I and the group talked about a weapons policy, because with concealed carry now, that's an important caveat, to clarify that, we still won't allow it on village property. However, you can have it, you just have to have it concealed in your car. So, and the biggest one that I spoke to Jeannie prior to the meeting was we added the half day of holiday. So if that's a discussion point, the village was currently compensated for 9.5 holiday pay days. The library had 10, so all we did was even the playing field. New Year's Eve was a pretty odd day this year. We were full staffed on New Year's Eve, and it was, I'll just tell you, it was pretty much a waste of our time. So it was a tough day to be here. So.
Will that affect tax payments at all?
It technically will, but where I've seen it happen in the past, they post their hours. They post what days they're available for, and we do that before the tax season. And you take that out of the equation. Hey, we're not gonna be here on New Year's Eve. So,
I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Dave. On my page 9, under recruitment and selection policies, authorization to hire. Now, does this include the library? They have to, if they need to fill a vacancy, they have to submit a request to you also? Or are they governed only by the library board on it?
That would be for Gillette, they would be under the library.
I think that's a chapter 43.
Correct.
Yeah.
Wisconsin State Library Board.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a
So
state
should
statute.
that,
What,
should that be, say, excluding the library board then?
Could there be some, and going along with this, Jeannie, could there be somewhere in here,
There is, Julie, I know you're going.
okay, that we just say that if chapter 43 supersedes this? Where
It
does it say that?
It doesn't give the chapter, but it does say something about the library, and I gotta find it.
Yeah,
Because it says something that reverts back, doesn't apply, it reverts back to the personnel manual.
Okay.
Is exactly what I gotta find it.
Because I remember when we did some of the policies, Ally, in the library, we would do it because as a library board, we could do it, but then if we felt that the personnel manual was a better fit for that, we would say refer to the village. So it was referring back to this.
Right.
But maybe there needs to be that cross where, because I would also hate for a library board or a library employee to read this and think that this absolutely 100% applies, because there's going to be certain policies. Are you then attaching and amending that? Like, so every employee has to sign that they received this. As a library employee, are you including any employment policies on this to make sure that they?
We follow the personnel policy currently. And then when, like, we just had a hire in January, any questions she had, I said, well, this is how it's approached.
What about like the review process? Is that still?
Like performance reviews?
Didn't we do a special policy for that? Did we do? I thought we did where it was like an annual.
We have for library director, yep.
Yep.
And then the director does the,
You do
Is
your
that in
own
the
thing.
bylaws?
right.
Maybe that.
We'll have to check on that.
Jeannie, as a department
know we
head,
have
as
it.
Ally being a department head, I don't think we should strike that, because two things. A, we still gotta worry about budgetary concerns,
Yes.
and
That's what I
also,
was
it
wondering.
has to be a background check too. So it still has to go through me to get to Chris in
Yes.
order to have a hire. So I think we
I,
need,
that's why I wanted to be sure that that
Yeah.
was also for library, to have to
So-
follow
So
that.
can you point that
So
out
if
again,
the,
Jane? so I
if the
have-
library board
On page- my
approves a
page 9.
posting, then they approve
On
it, and then it
recruitment
just
and
gets passed
selection
through the
policy?
line.
well,
Which
essentially,
line?
Ally, supervisors who wish to fill a vacancy in an existing position shall submit a written request to the administrator.
But I might be off.
That's basically you sending me an email saying, hey, we have an open position and we need to fill it.
On the
Yeah.
recruitment and selection
Yeah.
policy?
It's a technicality.
Yeah.
It's a technicality. I mean, but that makes me aware that, hey, we're gonna need to do a background search on this person once they're classified. So,
Right. I just felt you should be involved. Yeah. So I wondered if the library had to follow it or their rules.
I think it's, like I just said to Ally, it's gonna technically be like an email to me, hey, Dave, we need to fill this position.
Yeah.
Bringing it to the
And I'm like,
board.
okay, send out for, get it posted, whatever, and then when you find somebody, let me know. Because it goes to the library board for the review process and the hiring. And then they basically come back to the village hall side of it, the administration side, for the background check upon approval or suggestion.
So the technicality, but the village administrator is not
Not
part of
the-
that hiring
Correct.
process. So
Correct.
once that director chooses an employee or the board chooses
Correct.
a librarian, then it's.
We do the technical side of it, the
Right.
background and
Yeah.
facilitating.
And the drug
The
testing.
medical and.
If it's
Yeah.
full-time, yes, it'd be
Yeah.
the benefits and that side of it, correct.
Because that's how the
Well,
keys
I
are
mean-
distributed and that sort of thing, right? Is that,
I-
that all
I-
goes through the
I'm not
village
sure
office?
how they do it now, but I know when Carolyn was there, the village sent them in for the medical test, the drug testing and all of that also.
It's
It wasn't just the background check.
Yep, and that's how the keys are distributed to a new employee,
still
is
that
through the
way.
village office.
Yeah. Through Jane.
Mhm. And that was not always the case. Right? And I just remember at one point,
Yeah, we've both only been.
we
here
fixed
years.
it. Because there was an interim there where we didn't have, okay, yep. So, yeah, you're involved in that, it's just,
Absolutely,
yeah. I just don't wanna, I just wanna be careful too, because the chapter 43, there's some real specific state statutes we had to be careful of.
Anything else on the manual? Seeing we've had some changes, are we still going to try to prove that tonight?
I think it would be in the best interest to approve it. The changes that we suggested were very minimal, mostly language changes. That should be okay, Bob, right? You know?
It'd be just, the motion would be to approve, and, with the changes.
With the changes that were
suggested.
suggested tonight, absolutely. Yep. And then, right away, I will forward copies to all employees as well as the village board and staff, so everybody's aware of moving forward. And then I'll set up time with you. I would like to wait until, when's the next library meeting?
March 5th.
Okay, so we'll have that discussions. I think, we should probably set a date, or like a retroactive date that this is, you know, we can do it tomorrow, but then it affects their benefits, so that's the only real caveat, I would say.
March 1?
We can do it March 1, effective date, and then you and I, that would give us time to have discussions before that. And then we'll have a rectifying meeting on March 5th with the library board to discuss it.
Yep.
Okay?
So do we need a motion now, or just wait till regular board, 'cause I would, seeing everybody's here, I can't see making a motion to recommend, and we're all here. And if not, if we don't have anything else, I'm adjourned, so we can move on to our regular board.
Just for clarification,
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
we had the library board portion where we did deletions, we took out C and part B, right?
Correct.
And then department heads, we deleted the payroll, reports being submitted to the village board. There's one other, wasn't it? Or did we just talk about it?
We just talked about it, it never happened.
So those are the only two
Yep.
that we're gonna do?
Yep.
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.